Hey, LA462ers, this is Robert, your instructor, and I just wanted to do a quick check-in with you folks because you are on to your big project of the semester, the final cumulative essay, and I wanted to give you a kind of down and dirty orientation to how to approach this assignment, which is advanced. Um, this is where you're bringing together a lot of different skills that you've acquired, not only in this class, but during your time studying at the university. So um, let me try to be brief, and I will try to get to the main points as best I can. First, however, I thought I would introduce you to the forest that I live in here in my remote town called Mendocino, which is about 3 hours north of San Francisco. I live about a mile above the ocean. And I'm going to shift you so you can see that's the forest I'm in. There are some old growth trees out here that I feel very blessed to live among. And it can get terrifying in the winter when they start to fall down outside your cabin. So, all right, let's talk about your final essay. Now, the essence of this project is to have something to argue. That is a main idea or a thesis statement that you have to prove. So it goes beyond stating the obvious. For example, if you're writing about trickster narratives in three different cultures like Native American, Ancient Greek, and Australian Aborigine, say. And when you go beyond stating the obvious, such as hey, look, there are tricksters in this, you you begin having to prove what you're saying. You're making a claim, and that insight you need to back up with a close argument. And your goal is to reveal the meaning, to unpack the meaning that is buried in these narratives. And of course, you're working to answer that big question. Why do we keep telling trickster stories? Why do we love the trickster archetype so much? Why does that character keep showing up in our lives and disrupting it and bringing in both destruction and new life? So, in a way, you're exploring, well, in truth, you are exploring human meaning, the human creation of meaning in these essays when you finally get down to the bottom of it. What goes into making a successful essay? Well, the first thing I just mentioned, a strong thesis statement, a strong main idea that you're out to prove. Now, you can get this from different places. One of the most lovely places is you come up with one yourself. You've been reading these trickster narratives and your light bulb went off, and you're like, I'm going to argue this. You can also get a thesis to argue from one of the theoretical perspectives that we've studied this semester, such as the Jungian. You can work with the different methods of analyzing a myth, such as the universal, the cultural, and the psychological pedagogical. You can follow another theoretical approach, such as the Freudian. Um, and there are many more out there. So the thesis can be original to you, or it can be one that you've uncovered in your studies. Typically, and actually necessarily, your essay will need to be both because it's a research essay. Which brings me on to second thing, research. Now, um, I urge you with the greatest sincerity, if you can, to get to a library, a good library. Certainly to get into the databases of all the best libraries you can. Because if you rely on the internet for your research purposes, you are likely to go astray. 95 of the internet, as we know, is garbage, or is simply repeating what other internet sites say. So if you want to dig in to, let's say, Norse mythos, if you can find the work of Jackson Crawford, who is a real scholar who does YouTube videos, good for you. Crawford is great. But what you're more likely to find are a bunch of people acting like modern day Vikings spewing racist nonsense. So it takes discrimination and intelligence to do research. And a really good place to start is where centuries of insight and scholarship and hard work have accrued, and that's in the library. I hope you can get to one. Certainly use your intelligence and be willing to dig deeper than dumb, superficial websites that pop up so quickly on a Google search. Okay. All right. Okay. So that's the second thing. Research. You can tell I have some strong feelings about that. The third thing is to compose using point information explanation. So, in other words, avoid summary, minimal summarizing. Do not spend like a good portion of your paper summarizing these myths. Don't do it. Because when you do that, you're padding your essay and you're not getting to your point, which is what are your insights? What are you arguing about, let's say, the nature of the trickster? So, what does a PIE structure look like? What does a PIE paragraph look like? Think of it like you have your thesis statement at the end of your introduction. And in your introduction, you're making a claim that you have to prove. For example, uh, trickster figures demonstrate uh, three characteristics A, B, C. In the myths that we are examining, we can see how these different characteristics function to play a valuable role in the education of the young in these different groups. Wow, now that's a claim you would have to prove. See how it starts getting more interesting that way. Now, the PIE paragraphs that follow the thesis is you have your point, which is characteristic A in the trickster tales appears as, and then you quote from all three different sources. You show how the trickster, I don't know, manages to, with his appetites, to get himself into ridiculous circumstances. Um, and then uh, the information that you are providing, which is your research, and the stories that you are quoting go to prove your point. You've made a claim. You're proving it. Then the explanation, y'all following me? Even I get lost with this. Okay. The explanation comes at the end of the paragraph, and that kind of ties it all up. It's your conclusion, which allows you to move on to the next paragraph. Okay. So think of PIE like training wheels on a bicycle. You're learning to ride a bike. You're learning to create an argument. Use it. Be sure to use MLA too. Modern Language Association citations. Okay, works cited in text citations. You should have learned all of that by now. All part of the machinery of doing a research paper. So, those are the three things to have foremost in mind. Have a strong argument So you end up arguing from evidence and not summarizing. Do good research. And finally, have a good time. I mean, get into original sources as much as you can and enjoy thinking outside the box. You may never get an opportunity again to write an essay like this. So I know we're all working really hard, me included. We've got all kinds of things on our plates. And I do hope that you will have the opportunity to carve out some quality time to spend with this material. Please write me if you have any questions and take a moment to watch the video about Bloom's taxonomy, which I'm going to post beneath this one, which will help you understand the stages of reasoning that you need to go through, that we all need to go through in order to get to the stage of creation, coming up with our own unique, valuable insight. It's really quite fascinating. And that will also help you understand what our goal is for this assignment. Okay, thanks for bearing with me. If you made it all the way here, you're a hero. And I look forward to seeing your rough drafts.